What would you say to the person who maybe is going, I don't have much financially. The Lord hasn't entrusted me with much at this maybe season in my life or stage in my life. And is it even wise for me to give? Like, should I be giving? You guys are making a call that you want everyone to participate. Does that feel right for those who maybe don't have much to begin with?
Yeah, great question.
Well, if it's just about achieving a number, then it probably isn't super wise.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't matter that much. Because you're, $500 and you're going to really put a big dent in things, right? But if it's about God doing something in your heart to expose you to the provisional Father heart of God more, to give you increased faith in His Son, to untether you from the world and worldly possessions, if that's the work, then there's not a person on earth, whether you're a millionaire or poor, who doesn't need that work done in their heart. Are we on?
We are.
Check, check, check. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Stonegate First. We are coming at you from headquarters, HQ.
Is that the way you set up a podcast right there?
It is. And our dear beloved brother and fearless lead pastor, Rodney Hobbs, said, in just the same way as we are to go first as leaders in our generosity, Rodney said, and now let me show you what going first looks like, but eating an atomic warhead. Which we have in our possession right here.
Extreme sour.
Rodney.
You use the word atomic.
Yeah.
Should I be?
That's what it's going to feel like when it goes inside your mouth.
Yeah.
And I think as just a testament to our church family of what godly leadership is, that it's taking it on the chin for the glory of God. It's sacrifice.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, isn't that what you've been talking about?
That's it.
So I don't know. I just feel like it's from the Lord. So anyways, here we go.
So is it this with a straight face?
It's that. I think you need at least 20 seconds.
So warhead, extreme, sour.
Give it a go.
See what happens.
Yeah. It's like that show where they make you eat hot wings on air. It's kind of like that, except, very different. Here we go.
I feel like I'm in the 7th grade.
This is Pastoral Leadership 101,
Right
ladies and
here.
gentlemen. Take notes, kids, because this right here.
Going first.
Can we get a tight right here? This is the face of a man who loves you enough to go first. Look at him. Mm-hmm. Any sweat?
Is it
Did
coming?
it hit? See?
Starting.
At first it started sweet, probably. You felt a little...
There's so much happening right now.
Yeah.
So much.
Walk us through it. There's a...
Very atomic.
In nature.
Nuclear.
Yeah. There was a sweet thing at first, but not anymore.
It was all sour at first.
Oh, okay.
And I just got to the sweet.
Oh.
But I can feel some sweat right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. You're glowing.
All right, I think
That's
we made
beautiful.
it. I think
You
we're
got
to the
through it.
sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
And that's a man I can follow.
Right there.
That's a man I can follow.
Right there.
Yeah. Good luck keeping that in your mouth
Yeah.
for the rest of this very important
What
podcast.
do you do now?
I think it'll mix well with that coffee.
Oh, it's going to taste great.
Coffee and sour. That's a winning
Yeah,
combination.
we actually didn't
right
plan the what to do now part. We just stepped
There. No
into
graceful way of
it.
transitioning.
No, that's right. So we're here to talk about Follow Me.
Well, is it coming out?
we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, why don't you get us started?
Let's
How's
do
that? Yeah. While he sweats it out.
So we had advanced commitment night
We sure did.
on Friday night. So which
Which-
was
amazing.
Which was memorable
Yes, it was.
on many different fronts.
Our brother
It really
Shane
was.
Bernard was there leading
Shane
worship,
Bernard,
and which was so great.
Yep.
And so many folks came, and
We had a fire outside.
many.
One intentional.
Many a fire.
Unintentional.
Oh, we did have a fire, an unintentional fire, and many intentional fires.
Yes.
S'mores.
Mm-hmm.
S'more what?
Yeah. It was a smorgasbord.
If you will.
Yeah.
It was a great night. And we had so many of the folks in our church family who are saying, I want to lead out in this Follow Me initiative, do that very thing and go first in terms of their giving. And it was beautiful to watch that happen.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
and I think as we've been thinking about this even for months now, the advanced commitment night for a lot of folks that are just would consider themselves leaders around Stonegate. It was a culmination moment with a lot of pre-work that's gone into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where we've all been just wrestling with what is that number? What represents radical sacrificial generosity for us individually, our families, for the next couple of years? And I think that's been a journey for everyone to have to unpack. So, I mean, maybe that's a good thing to tease out a little bit. What's that look like for you guys in some of that pre-work before the advanced commitment night of saying, how do me and my spouse come to a number that does feel like we're listening to the Lord and is generous for us?
Well, anytime that we're in these sort of moments as a church, I do feel the first thing that leaders have to do is get there first. So I knew this moment was coming back in the fall, is when all these conversations began. And so it was all the way back in August when Laura and I began that conversation of like, okay, here we are at another one. We've had many of these moments in our past. We're at another one again. Here, the Lord has this in front of us. And what's it going to be like for us to open up and say yes to whatever He has? So that conversation started in August. And by the time we got to October, so I'm going to say it's about a 2-month journey for us of keeping this before the Lord, tears, prayer, fasting. We both, when we sort of nailed down the moment of what do we think, were really close together, which was wonderful. It's like the Lord talking to both of us in some really profound ways. And it was such a, it's a number that is, I would not have thought it possible just 4 or 5 years ago. And for the Lord to have us in a place where we can with a glad heart say that and step into it. Fear, yes. Some worry, yes. And a real gladness that we're going to do that. The Lord's got us to a place where we could say with a glad heart yes to that. That has been such an encouragement for us along the way.
That's good.
So, how about for you, Jimmy?
I remember not too long ago, me and Kelly were in a similar spot processing that, praying through it. Here's my number. Here's what's yours. Let's see. If, hopefully they match. All that. And we were talking, and Kelly says in it as we're trying to think through where is our money and what could we get to that number that we had in our mind. And she does throw the and let's not forget about our retirement. Yeah. Our savings, let's keep that on the table. And man, when I'm saying, as soon as she said that, nothing on my face said it, but my insides were like, how dare you? How dare you bring up that sacred bucket, you know? And it was funny. I actually haven't even really verbalized. I just remember experiencing this feeling of I'm cool with saying all things are on the table. But man, when it was the moment of, okay, now actually consider, might God be wanting you to open up your hands around all things? My heart did some gymnastics, and I think that's one of the, we talked about this, I think, one time ago when we were making one of these videos, but I think that is one of the points to things like generosity initiatives in the church, things like putting the spotlight on how we relate to money. It's to expose our hearts. It's to help us see the things that get really hostile really quick, and then to get, like we said last time, really curious about why am I so fired up all of a sudden? Why is that? Why can I be cool with every other command in Scripture, but when it comes to this, all of a sudden I'm just. And so I just saw that in myself firsthand and did not like what I saw, which I think is a good thing because now I have something to repent about. Now I have something to bring to the Lord and go, Lord, would you? I might have an idol here. Would you help me see that?
Part of what you're illustrating is the difference between coming to the Lord with an open and a closed heart. The closed heart is the things I really look to for life and security and a refuge, and the things I'm really banking on stay locked in the box behind me. And now I come before the Lord with what's negotiable. And that is an easy thing for us all to do, because these things are not things that we're looking to for life. But as soon as those things come on the table, what you're describing, all of those defensive mechanisms, all of that fear, all of those things, when these things come on the table, are present with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's one way you typically know that the things you're really looking to for life are on the table, is you're feeling all of that.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those profound experiences with the Lord that we can all have in a moment like this, is to bring all of those out and to say to the Lord, you are worth more to me than these things.
Yeah.
I'm depending on you for a refuge more than I am these things.
Yeah.
And that's really where we want to go. So,
Yeah, and it's another way of thinking about discipleship in general that I sometimes just back up and remind myself in these moments as well, is a lot of it is being reintroduced to yourself.
Yeah.
So there is often that gap that we all live with between who we like to see ourselves as and who we really are.
Yeah.
And I feel like these kind of moments, they bring out a sense of like, okay, here's how I see myself and how I'd like to perceive myself. And here's who I actually am when something starts to get pushed on.
Here's the gap. Yeah.
So that's who I am. And that's a humbling, and I also think it's an exposing and good moment along the way. We did some fasting with a group of guys in January. And so that was probably one of the things, like Crystal and I were spending time during that fast season. So fasting was an important part of the conversation for us.
Yeah.
So trying to take some steps of saying, Lord, we really want to position ourselves to hear from you in an extraordinary way. And realizing that, I'm not saying always, but fasting does open up some of those opportunities where you're going without, so you've got more time to commune with the Lord, to listen to the Lord, to run to the Lord, to pray, and all that. And that was such good pre-work for us. Even Crystal stepping into it, I was so encouraged to see her take some steps in that direction. It's often been a little bit more of a challenge for her. And that led to a lot of good conversations for us.
Yeah.
And I think another step is even, which I'm sure you guys wanted, is we wanted our kids to like be part of these conversations with us as well.
Yeah.
I did not want to have a moment where we're entering for the next 2 years where they're not thinking through or getting the benefit of also seeing us discipled and growing as we're doing this as a family together. Because I want them to like also see like this is our family participating.
That's right.
in this. So,
Friday was that for us. You know, we got to watch our kids kind of, and they did some thought work before, but process through, okay, well, how much do I make when I watch my neighbor's cats? And if I do that 5 times a year, and they actually, they pledged that night, a couple of our kiddos, and it was a number that was like, yeah, that's going to take some faith. And we got to look at them and commend them and go, baby, that's a good thing. Yeah. Like, more than like, I think my systems have always been, and even in upbringing, so it's always been, you just save. That is the great value in the world, and it's like, I want to change the paradigm with my kids and go like, I want you to feel fired up about letting go of this at an early age. Because if you learn that impulse at 9, at 12, it's like that's going to help you so much when you're 25, 35, So I'm glad they had that memory.
So let me ask you guys this, is a lot of people in our church will be leaning into it, thinking about being prepared for this Sunday when we're doing a commitment Sunday for the entire church. What if 2 spouses, they're not on the same page? So they're thinking through this upcoming Sunday, or they have been praying and following along with us in this sermon series. But they're still feeling like, man, we don't feel like we're hearing the same thing from the Lord. We're not on the same page. What pastoral counsel would you give them?
Yeah. Well, I'll take a stab at it, and then y'all feel free to throw in some other things around it. But I think first we should expect there to be moments in our marriage where we disagree on a thing. That's healthy and good. So
speak for yourself. Bro.
Yeah, that's right. So I hope that you and your spouse, when y'all are listening to the Lord and you come to the moment of what do we think, I hope that there is a lot of agreement in that. But it's not going to be uncommon across our church family for there to be a lot of disagreement in that. And, it is funny just to think about in all of our marriages, there is likely one of, either us or our spouse that's more generous, one that's maybe leans into the voice of wisdom a little bit more. Those roles have a way of developing pretty quickly in any marriage. And I think that's probably true in any marriage out there. When there's a disagreement, you've got kind of the voice of wisdom that's meeting maybe the one that's a little more generous and a little more open-handed in just their normal posture in life. And so I think there's room for a lot of patience. There's room for a lot of prayer. There's room for a lot of fasting together. There's room for a lot of getting on your knees together and just asking the Lord, would you help us see what you want us to see? There's a lot of humility needed in moments like that. And, I do think most of the time, the one that is more generous is right. And this has been a humbling thing for me. The voice of wisdom is going to be very loud in my life, while on the other hand, for Laura, it's like, who cares about tomorrow? This is the moment, right? Right here. And so she is just a very open-hearted, generous person. And I think when we stand before the Lord one day, I'm going to have wanted to listen to her in just about every one of these moments. Mm-hmm. So I do think there is humility here in this moment. And this is just for me personally speaking. It's like Laura and I have been at this place a lot where she is ready and wants to do more than I want to do in a moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that has often been me saying, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah.
So those are a few thoughts.
Good.
Yeah. Anything else?
She got you out of those double digits.
That's right.
3 and 4 0. Yes. That's awesome. No, I think this is why life is better together. It's why God designed the church to function like it does. We all come with different gifts, different inclinations. We're meant to work together. We're meant to. Everybody is exposing and everybody else as we're walking in the Spirit, our deficiencies, our blind spots. And so I think that's actually not you shouldn't feel discouraged when that happens. It will happen, and you should not feel discouraged. You should feel like this is the normative way that life works. And there can be thoughtful opinions on both sides. It's not like one is absolutely wrong, one's absolutely right, but this is the chance for compromise. This is the chance for, I even think in a marriage, sometimes this is a chance for just like the godly exercise of submission and headship to operate. All of those things are meant to flourish in these moments. And so I think these are good and healthy moments, not moments that we got to feel really bummed out about.
And like it's probably worth also saying that humility, I think, is like so the thing in this conversation, because nobody is going to a verse in a text saying, this is what the Lord said, So we're all listening in a more subjective way to the Lord that is being interpreted through our own fleshly things. So there ought to be a lot of humility to say, I think this is what the Lord is saying.
That's right.
And you, spouse, you think this is what the Lord is saying. And now we just prayerfully enter into that space together.
Yeah. One last observation I'll just make too is we live in a culture where finances often sometimes feels like even the last taboo. Yeah. People are maybe more open about areas of all sorts of other areas of life, but still the area of like privacy associated with finance feels like very locked off.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder if like there's wisdom even in bringing other people in from your community, because you're right. Like when that tension happens and when there is that disagreement, or when we're wanting to listen to the voice of wisdom or whatever that might be.
Yep.
Like, let's bring some other voices into that.
I think
that has some
totally
humility
healthy.
though, but it means we've got to like kind of go against that cultural taboo of like, our financial information is so closed off and private that we don't bring other people into that. And it's like, I don't think that's how Christians should operate.
Yeah. And that's why all three of us agreed before we came on to say our number in front of you. And we're going to say it at the same time. I'll go first. 25 million.
Campaign's done.
Oh, you got, sorry. Now I feel embarrassed. I said my number. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
We all are leaning in, and it's just such a joy and a privilege. I genuinely mean that.
Yeah.
To get to do a lot of shepherding and pastoral care for folks as we walk through this. I think this exposes just so many moments where you get to enter into people's relationship with God and their faith and all of that. And one of the areas, too, around Stonegate that's been interesting for us to intersect with, and there's a lot of diversity in our church when it comes to socioeconomics. So you have folks that are all over the map as to what the Lord's entrusted to them. So what would you say to the person who maybe is going, I don't have much financially. The Lord hasn't entrusted me with much at this maybe season in my life or stage in my life. And is it even wise for me to give? Like, should I be giving? You guys are making a call that you want everyone to participate. Does that feel right for those who maybe don't have much to begin with?
Yeah, great question.
Well, if it's just about achieving a number, then it probably isn't super wise, because it really doesn't matter that much, because you're, $500 and you're going to really put a big dent in things, right? But if it's about God doing something in your heart to expose you to the provisional Father heart of God more, to give you increased faith in His Son, to untether you from the world and worldly possessions. If that's the work, then there's not a person on earth, whether you're a millionaire or poor, who doesn't need that work done in their heart. And I think it's the story of the widow's mite moment. It's like that story pleased Jesus not because she finally finished off the giving campaign for the temple, right. She gave nothing. She gave nothing. But what it did was it revealed her affection and her reliance on the Lord in that moment. And that is the currency of heaven. That is the value that God wants to produce in a human life. He's not, again, like we've said this in sermons, he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He's not worried about like church buildings and is there enough space. He owns everything. What he wants to do is develop dependency in his people. And if you are a one income, single parent, whatever, and if you're, Bill Gates, all of us have work to be done in our heart to untether us from things. And the great thing is, it's not about numbers. It's not like that poverty-stricken person has to give X amount or else it doesn't count. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
And so I think the pressure's off to like feel that the bigger question is just, am I untethering myself from every other love besides Jesus? And this is one of the ways that God allows me to do that through acts of generosity.
Yeah. Part of what you're getting into is just how what is our perceived wisdom intersects with following Jesus. That's another way to frame some of what you're talking about. And for any of us, when maybe we're behind financially or things are super tight, it does not feel wise to be sacrificial and crazy in our generosity, And that feels like the opposite of the voice of wisdom. And, I think it is generally true that Jesus is many times going to show up and his voice is going to sound like the voice of wisdom. But if all we ever do in our life with Jesus is follow the voice of wisdom, we are going to miss the voice of Jesus really often. Yeah. And so there are going to be moments where Jesus calls us to do things that everyone around us would say, that is an unwise, crazy thing to do. You shouldn't do it. And, we just have to make space for that. That is going to be a thing. And, there are moments pastorally where I have an impulse in me to want to talk somebody out of a thing.
Yeah.
So if I just imagine myself in Luke 21, I'm the pastor of the widow giving her last 2 mites. I feel an impulse that would say,
why don't you hang on to those?
Don't do that. Yeah. Would you keep that?
You put it in a Roth IRA.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's like I feel that in me of like a protective sort of a feeling for a person like that. So I feel that tension of like, here's wisdom on one side. Here is the voice of Jesus showing up in a person's life that sometimes sounds like wisdom and sometimes seems like that's crazy. And one of the things I've just had to wrestle down pastorally is that is not my tension to solve for people. Yeah. So if we take it out of the financial world and we put it in the missions world, what happens when my daughter at 20, she's not 20 yet, she's 15, but just hypothetically, she shows up at 20 and is like, I think the Lord is asking me to give my life to the 1040 window to see Muslims meet Jesus. There's nothing about that seems wise to me.
No.
But it's not my tension to solve for her at that moment. My posture as a parent is, baby, I want you to listen to the voice of Jesus, and he's worth anything. So if his voice is saying, this is what I want from your life, I want to be the type of dad who can say, gosh, it seems so unwise, but Jesus is worth anything.
That's great, man. Yeah. I'd want to add one other thing. The resistance some of us maybe even feel toward like the person who's down and out also acting in generosity toward the Lord, the hesitancy, it almost betrays the fact that we're not appreciating there's a supernatural father of that person behind the scenes working. Like I was driving home a couple days ago and our middle daughter was asking me about the widow's mite story and like how it worked and it was the wisdom question and all that. And we just got to kind of daydream together and I told her something, I'm making some assumptions here, but I think they're biblical. It's like, what I'm like 100% sure didn't happen the next day? I'm sure that the next day she didn't wake up and still had nothing and then starved to death.
Yep, that's right.
I am very confident that a bread cart came by and somebody offered her a thing, or the next day somebody said, "Can I meet these needs for you?" Or a family took her in, because I know the heart of God. I've seen him in our life. We have testimonies throughout Christian history of people who lived generous lives that God took care of them. We have the testimony of Scripture. I've been young, but now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his descendants begging bread. So we have the testimony of experience and the Bible that says God takes care of his own. He takes care of them. I am sure that the widow was taken care of.
I love the reframing, though, of like, I think it is a seminal moment to think of God as Father, to really return to that doctrine and ponder that. Because if you believe that our Father has a good heart, that allows you to step into that moment. Because I have that same propensity Rodney's mentioning, where I'll want to almost rescue people from God.
That's right. That's what you would be doing.
That's what I'm
if you
doing.
solved
Like,
that tension.
as if God doesn't know best.
Yeah.
As if God is not working and willing and up to their good because he's a good father.
Yeah.
But I have to intervene.
That's right.
In what God wants or what God's saying to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, it's actually quite unfaithfully audacious.
Yeah.
And to want to posture myself in that kind of way.
It really is. And, you know, just if you picture yourself as a dad, this is how I'm even interacting with my kids. It's like all of my kids have turned in a commitment card on Friday night, just a great moment. And just that muscle beginning to flex in their life and grow and build in their life. And I can't wait to meet them on the other side of it with some surprises.
Yeah.
Just like the Lord does that with us. He just can't wait to meet us on the other side of moments that seem crazy with some really wonderful surprises. So.
Yeah. Well, let's close with this question. And you preached on this a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was such a helpful thing for us to revisit. Is weariness is just part of life.
Yeah.
You know, the pressures of life stack up, the concerns, the cares of life, they stack up, and they're constant. A lot of people that call Stonegate Church home, they're just in the middle of all the messy middle of life. And you know, we've been, as a church, we've been moving really fast for the last 14, 15 years since Stonegate's come along, and we've gone at a good clip for a church our age and size. And so what would we say is like maybe a word of encouragement or consideration for those who do maybe feel a little weary as a moment like this comes again? We have to step out in generosity and trust the Lord that he's going to meet us in ways that are supernatural.
Yeah, you bet. Well, let me just start by saying this, and we can all weigh in on it. But one, I just empathize with the feeling. I think anyone who follows Jesus long feels that sense of weariness of like, God, I've done so many hard things. Can I not do a hard thing next, like right now? We all know that feeling. I know that feeling. So anyone feeling weary, I totally empathize with the feeling of that. This is why Paul says in Galatians 6:9, don't grow weary in doing good, because if you don't give up, you're going to reap a harvest one day. So don't give up. And so that feeling is not foreign to the Bible or foreign to any follower of Jesus. We all feel that. But the main thing I would want to say just underneath it, I think there has to be an underlying conviction form in our life. And that underlying conviction is, I'm not going to give into the want for, even that addictive impulse toward ease and comfort in my life. Yeah. So I think there does have to be a baseline conviction somewhere deep in your soul. And this is one of those things where it's just, I have to wrestle this thing down with the Lord of, I am not going to allow my life to drift into what is easy and comfortable for me. And that is the drift. The older we get, this is the sort of tendency and way our life wants to kind of operate is, let me pad my life, let me make it easier, let me do all of that. Let me let entitlement begin to sort of win in my life. And if ease and comfort win, Jesus will not.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be an underlying conviction that it will not win, that Jesus is going to win, that I want to spend every day of my life until my last day doing whatever it is the Lord has in front of me, which means we are signing up for tomorrow, the next week, the next month, the next year, hard things. Because that is what Jesus is asking of us, is there's going to be next hard things and hard things after that and hard things after that. That is just the price paid to do things that matter and are significant. So I think that underlying conviction, first of all, just has to be set with the Lord of like, I am not asking for ease. I'm actually asking for the next hard thing, whatever that is. Yeah. And Lord, help me in my weariness along the way in that.
Yeah.
So,
another way to say that is dying is the normal Christian life.
Yeah.
It's Luke 9:23.
Yeah.
It's all of those.
Yep.
Do you want to follow me? Then you pick up your cross, this instrument of death, daily, and you follow after me. I remember when we were about to adopt our first son, who had some special needs, and we were feeling the heft of that lift and just the nerves and all the unknown. We got together with another family who had adopted. They're further down the road. They adopted an older child. They had all kinds of issues, and I was just asking, man, how did you like get over the hump of fear and all that stuff? And I'll never forget what he said. He looked at me and he said, we just came to terms with this in that decision and every decision. If it doesn't feel a little bit like dying, it's probably not the gospel.
Mm-hmm. So
And
true.
that has just stuck with me. It's like pain,
So true.
death, giving up something is the normative way a Christian should experience life. And it doesn't mean that it's a drag.
Nope.
It means God meets us in that death
Yeah.
and gives us life, right? So that we're pressed but not crushed, persecuted but not abandoned. So it's the both and. But you're right. The Christian life is signing up for my flesh dying every day. And dying doesn't feel awesome. So if it doesn't feel awesome, that probably is right.
Yeah.
That's probably a good, and you can go, okay, this is how the
probably on the
saints
right
of
track.
old
Yeah.
have always felt, and God's going to meet me in it and do some really great things.
Yeah. For sure. So, church, if that is you, if you're feeling that, I just want to look at you and encourage you. Do not give in to ease. That is going to be it's one of the things that, as we age, kills our effectiveness for Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage you, don't give in to that voice, that thing. Keep your life open before the Lord with a posture that says, God, I want my life to be valuable here. I want to give it to the most significant things here. I don't want to waste it, which means there's going to be a lot of hard in that. And that is just one of those things I've had to wrestle down with the Lord and just say to him, I do not want my life to go this way. I want it to go toward Jesus. And one of the things, too, that I think in terms of just a promise to help us in our weariness, I love how the author of Hebrews pictures heaven as entering into rest. I think that's an amazing picture. Yeah. It's like there is going to be a day where our hearts feel no fatigue in doing the hard things.
Yep.
And that day is coming for us. The problem is it's just not right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't go for a false heaven before the real one. So keep your heart open and ready for all the hard things now as we eagerly await that moment of rest.
Yeah, I totally echo that. I was thinking the same thing. Is like it's almost like a premature
It is.
desire. It's
Yeah.
like I can affirm actually the desire to go like mission completed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, we did it. There's no more sacrifice. There's no more pain. There's no more loss. But it's just not here yet.
It is not this day.
It's not this day. It's
That's
just not
Yeah.
the day that you're in yet.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so like remembering the day you're in, leaning into that day. And I will say this. I do think if you kind of make that deal of going like, okay, I've done enough, I've put in enough, I've worked hard, and now I'm going to just try to coast. I do think you are signing up for a different form of discipleship, a very deformed one than what Jesus actually wants for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think you're cutting yourself off from a lot of the fruit and joy that the Lord would want to have for all the days he gave you, not just half of them, 3/4, even 90% of them, but for all the days that he's given you. I just want us to maximize the joy that's to be found in them instead of just go like, man, I did it for half the life, for 3/4 that carried the cross, and then I just kind of, I love that just reminder of I want all the joy for all those days.
Yeah.
By being willing to follow Jesus.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Can I ask y'all just a last question as we finish up? Just as people are getting ready for Sunday morning, it's going to be a huge moment in the life of our church. This is one of those crucial moments of generosity that either opens up new seasons and a new window in the life of a church or has a way of closing those seasons. So it is one of those crucial moments. And if you're just encouraging people in some practical ways to prepare for Sunday morning, anything you would want to encourage the people of Stonegate with?
A couple things come to my mind. One is do a lot of the work before you come. to have thought through and prayed through this, because you want to give God as much time as possible to let Him poke on and bring to mind and reveal and convict and encourage you toward whatever God might have in front of you for Sunday. So if you haven't if it's just been, I'm just listening on a Sunday and then putting that away, I'm coming back next Sunday, this is the week where you're doing that work to get with the Lord alone, with your family, ask Him those things. But with that thought work, I think it's also wise for us all to come on Sunday still open-handed and open-hearted to what the Lord might do in that moment. I mean, I even heard testimonials from Friday night of folks who showed up thinking one thing, thinking they were going to do one thing, and then just in the moment, they just sensed from the Lord, no, it's something different. It's something more. It's something, So I'd say do the prep work and also come really open-hearted and open-handed on Sunday, and just curious about what the Lord might want to do in you.
You bet. Ryan?
No, I think those are good words. Echo everything, Jimmy. I would just say, this is a really great season to really step into, to not just, as Jimmy said, kind of treat it like I'm coming on Sundays and then I'm compartmentalizing the rest of my week, but to actually create some margin this week so you can listen to the Lord, so you can have the conversations with your spouse and with your family or with your community, or with a pastor. If you want to talk with one of us or someone on our team, we would love to connect with you this week. Any way we can help you, questions we can answer, engage with you, we would love to do that. And then I would say come Sunday too, expectant. And even with a sense of just ready to worship. It's going to be a very worshipful day. The Lord it'll be a day that we just get to see the grace of God, the goodness of God in action. Yeah. And I love that, tangible moments where you're like, I'm seeing God move in people's hearts and minds, and even us as a people. That's what it means to be a church, is us collectively listening to the Lord and corporately obeying Him, and then thinking of all that's going to come from that. We've just been talking really what this is about is us trusting the Lord, knowing He's a good Father. And then one of the outcomes of that is seeing our church be able to reach thousands of more people, because we're all coming together and saying we want to listen and trust the Lord. That's amazing. That's a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Not only is Sunday a crucial just moment in the bigger kind of life of our entire church family, I would just want to encourage you that this week and Sunday morning is a crucial moment in your life. This is a moment for you with an open heart, everything comes out on the table and you do that hard work of pulling your hands away from those things, offering everything to the Lord, and then listening. That is a crucial moment for you. This is how we know we're not the rich young ruler. This is how we make sure that when it's too late, when we're standing before Jesus one day, that we don't discover we're Him, is we have moments like this in our life. And I know these moments are hard. They're scary. They're all of those things. But this moment, this week, is a wonderful moment in the life of every single part of our church family, every single member in our church doing this. This is a moment where the Lord is going to show up in your life in just some really wonderful ways if you'll come with that type of an open heart on Sunday. So
I love it. Yeah, and our hope too, even over the coming weeks, a little bit of a sneak preview, is we want to continue on with this theme of even thinking about how we want to follow Jesus. And so we'll be even diving into more of that in March. And, in the coming weeks to talk more about that. That really is. I just think it's such an incredible thing for our church to be engaged with for the next couple of years. All sorts of ways that we can follow the Good Shepherd and hear His voice.
So Stonegate, we cannot wait to see you on Sunday. It's going to be a really great day. Can't wait.
Warhead.